The rain came down in soft sheets the day the lawyer read the will. It felt symbolic somehow, like the heavens themselves were marking a turning point in our lives. I sat stiffly in that polished mahogany office, hands folded in my lap, while my daughter, Sophia, scrolled absent-mindedly through her phone, barely paying attention. The lawyer's voice was steady and professional as he spoke. According to the last will and testament of Mr. Daniel Hartman, his estate, valued at approximately $33 million, is to be passed entirely to his biological daughter, Sophia Hartman. The words struck me like thunder. 33 million. My late husband had been a businessman with assets I'd never fully known the value of, but hearing the number aloud felt surreal. For a brief moment, pride swelled in my chest. My daughter would never know the struggles I had endured, raising her alone after Daniel's sudden passing, juggling multiple jobs, working late nights just to keep food on the table. She would finally be secure. I glanced at her, expecting to see gratitude, maybe even tears of relief. But Sophia only smirked, her eyes gleaming with the kind of arrogance I had never seen before. She tucked her phone into her designer bag and leaned back in her chair. 33 million, she repeated slowly, tasting the words like fine wine. I knew Dad wouldn't let me down. Her tone cut me deeper than she realized. Wouldn't let her down? I wanted to scream. Had she forgotten who kept her fed when her father was gone? Who stayed up all night sewing torn clothes so she wouldn't be teased at school? Who skipped meals so she could eat? But I stayed quiet. I had always been quiet. Always sacrificing, always swallowing my pride for the sake of love. The lawyer slid a few documents across the table for Sophia to sign. She scrawled her name with a careless flourish, hardly listening to the explanations of bank transfers and estate settlements. Her new life had already begun, one that no longer seemed to include me. When we stepped outside, the drizzle had softened into a mist. I reached for her hand, my heart heavy but hopeful. Sophia, I said softly, this money, it's a blessing. But don't let it change you. Remember where you come from. Remember the people who... She yanked her hand away, her expression hard. Don't lecture me, Mom. I'm not a kid anymore. I finally have what I deserve. No more penny pinching. No more listening to your endless worries. I'm done living like we're poor. Her words stung, sharp as glass. I tried to smile through the ache. I only want what's best for you, sweetheart. That's all I've ever wanted. But she wasn't listening. Already her phone was ringing, her friends shrieking through the speaker as she announced the news. Guess what, girls? I'm rich. That night, I sat alone at our small kitchen table, the same one I'd bought secondhand years ago when we couldn't afford new furniture. Sophia didn't come home until dawn, reeking of champagne and perfume. I made her breakfast, but she brushed past me, muttering, I'll be moving into the penthouse tomorrow. No offense, Mom, but this house is suffocating. I froze, spatula still in my hand. Penthouse? But this is your home. Our home. She shrugged. Not anymore. I don't need this tiny box when I can live like royalty. And honestly, she looked me up and down, her lip curling ever so slightly. You wouldn't fit in with that life. You'd embarrass me. The spatula slipped from my fingers, clattering against the stove. Embarrass her? I stared at the girl I had raised, the girl I had bled and cried for, and for the first time, I couldn't recognize her. By evening, movers filled the house. They carried her suitcases and designer bags out the door while I stood numbly in the corner. When the last box was loaded into the van, Sophia turned to me. You should probably start thinking about, finding your own place. I don't think it's a good idea for you to come with me. I need independence. Besides, I've got new friends now. People who actually understand me. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I forced my voice to remain steady. You're throwing me out? Sophia rolled her eyes, as though I were being dramatic. Don't make it sound so ugly. You'll manage. You always do. And with that, She slammed the door and left me standing in the silence of a house that no longer felt like home. That night, as I curled up alone on the sofa, the betrayal cut deeper than any wound I'd ever known. I had given Sophia my entire life, and now, in the glow of her newfound fortune, she discarded me as though I were nothing. In that moment, I realized the coldest hearts are often born not from strangers, but from the very people we love most. It happened faster than I ever imagined. 3 days. That's all it took for Sophia's golden castle to crumble. At first, her fortune seemed untouchable. She threw parties that lasted until dawn, each one louder, more extravagant than the last. The penthouse glittered with chandeliers, champagne flowed like water, and her so-called friends cheered her name like she was royalty. But money, like fire, burns brightest before it turns everything to ash. On the 3rd day, Sophia's phone rang with a call that should have raised every red flag. A smooth-talking investment advisor promised her an exclusive opportunity, something that would double her millions in weeks. Blinded by greed and the thrill of being treated like a powerful player, she signed away a huge portion of her inheritance. By evening, the advisor was gone, his company unreachable, his phone disconnected. Half of her fortune vanished in one cruel swipe. Sophia's friends shrugged it off at first. "Don't worry, babe, you've still got plenty. Come on, let's pop another bottle. What's a few million, right?" But behind their smiles, their eyes glimmered with something else. Calculation. They smelled weakness. The following day, her credit card stopped working. The bank froze her accounts while investigating the fraud. Suddenly, the same friends who clung to her side like shadows began drifting away. Invitations stopped. Calls went unanswered. The man she had been parading around as her boyfriend blocked her number without explanation. Sophia was left alone in her enormous penthouse, the silence gnawing at her. Worse still, creditors began knocking at her door. Old contracts, hidden debts from her father's estate, and lawsuits she didn't understand, all came crashing down at once. The newspapers that once celebrated her transformation into a glamorous heiress now tore her apart. From heiress to fool, Sophia Hartman loses millions in days. Her shame was public. Her name became a joke. 3 nights after throwing me out, I was at the diner, wiping down the counter, when I felt a hand on my arm. I turned, and there she was. But this was not the Sophia I knew. Gone was the glitter, the arrogance, the smirk. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hair disheveled, her dress stained as though she hadn't bothered to change in days. "Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, I need you." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands trembled as I set down the rag. She clutched at me, collapsing into sobs. "Everything's gone. They took everything. My friends. They left me. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do." I looked down at her, torn between 2 storms inside me. One whispered, "This is justice. Let her suffer like she made you suffer." The other whispered, "She is your daughter. She is still the child you once held in your arms." I didn't embrace her. Not yet. Instead, I pulled back gently and said, "Stand up, Sophia. If you want my help, you're going to have to earn it." She blinked at me, stunned. For the first time in her life, she saw that my love came with boundaries. That betrayal had a price. And in that moment, I felt something shift. The power she once stripped from me had returned. Her fall had brought her back to me. But now, it was my turn to decide what role I would play in her rebuilding. Mother or teacher. Sophia stood before me in the dim light of the diner, trembling like a lost child. 3 days ago, she had tossed me aside like old clothes. Now, she clung to me as if I were the only anchor in her sinking world. I should have felt pity. I should have rushed to embrace her, to soothe her pain. But all I felt was the sharp echo of my own wounds, the humiliation of being thrown out of her life, the emptiness of those nights alone. "Please, Mom," she whispered again. Her mascara streaked across her face. "I don't know what to do. I can't do this without you." I folded my arms, studying her. "3 days ago, you said you didn't need me. You said I embarrassed you. Do you remember that?" Her eyes widened, shame flickering across her face. She nodded slowly. I leaned closer, my voice steady, calm, but firm. "And yet here you are, on your knees, begging." She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. The sound ripped at my heart, but I steeled myself. This was not the time for softness. This was the time for lessons. I agreed to let her come home, but not to the penthouse, not to the glittering life she had built on shallow pride. No, she came back to our modest little house, the one she had once mocked. Her first night back, she looked at the old couch with disgust. "I can't sleep here. Don't we have something better?" I gave her a pillow and a blanket. "You'll take the couch. Be grateful you have it." She stared at me, stunned. Perhaps she expected me to welcome her back as if nothing had happened. But this was not the same mother she had once taken for granted. The days that followed were not easy for her. I made her wake up early and come with me to the diner. She had never worked a real job in her life, but I put an apron in her hands and told her to start wiping tables. "Mom, this is humiliating," she hissed. "No," I replied coldly. "This is reality. The same reality I lived through for years while you looked down on me. If you want my help, you'll earn it." At first, she resisted. She rolled her eyes, she grumbled, she complained about every chore. But slowly, I saw the arrogance fade. Her hands blistered from scrubbing. Her back ached from standing all day. She began to understand. One evening, after a long shift, she slumped into the kitchen chair and whispered, "I didn't know it was this hard for you, Mom. I didn't know you went through this. Every day." Her voice cracked. For the first time in years, I heard sincerity. Still, I didn't let her off easily. When creditors came looking for her, I made her face them herself. When greedy acquaintances called her phone, begging for money she no longer had, I made her say the word she had never learned to say: no. And when she broke down one night, sobbing that she wished she could turn back time, I simply said, "You can't. But you can choose who you become from this moment forward." It was then that she fell into my arms, clinging to me the way she had when she was little. Her tears soaked my shirt as she whispered, "I'm so sorry, Mom. I forgot who I was. I forgot who you are. Please forgive me." And though my heart still bore scars, I forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because I was her mother. Because love, even betrayed, still lingered. Weeks passed, and Sophia began to change. She learned to cook simple meals. She managed her small savings with care. She started reading books about finance, eager not to repeat her mistakes. Most importantly, she began to look at me not with disdain, but with respect. One morning, she handed me a steaming cup of coffee before I even asked. "Here, Mom," she said with a shy smile. "I thought you might need this before work." It was a small gesture, but to me, it was worth more than all the millions she had squandered. The revenge I had dreamed of was not in seeing her suffer. No, it was in watching her transform, watching her beg for the wisdom she once scorned. Watching her realize that my love, my strength, my sacrifices were worth more than any fortune. In the end, Sophia had lost her millions, but gained something she never had before: humility. And I had gained back my voice, my dignity, and my power. For the sweetest revenge is not destruction. It is forcing those who betrayed you to finally see your worth. And Sophia saw it now, clearer than ever. The days after Sophia moved out felt like a blur. The house, once filled with her laughter and chatter, was now silent. a hollow shell that echoed with memories I wished I could silence. I found myself staring at her empty bedroom, the posters on the wall, the half-burnt scented candles, the traces of her presence. It hurt to realize those four walls had once been her sanctuary, and now she had abandoned it all, abandoned me, for a life of glitter and shallow applause. At first, I tried to convince myself this was temporary, that the sudden rush of wealth had clouded her judgment, and she would come back once the excitement wore off. Mothers are good at lying to themselves like that, holding on to scraps of hope even when they're drowning. But the truth revealed itself quickly. Within a week, Sophia's face was splashed across tabloids and social media, her every move chronicled by paparazzi. Photos of her stepping out of limousines, dressed in shimmering gowns, surrounded by people I didn't know. She had become a spectacle, a young heiress basking in newfound fame. And me? I was nowhere in her orbit. One morning, I received a call from an old neighbor. "Elena, have you seen this?" she asked, her voice hesitant. When I looked up the article she mentioned, my heart sank. The headline screamed, "Sophia Hartman, the million-dollar heiress and her fabulous new life, no strings attached." The piece went on to describe her lavish parties, her generosity toward friends, and her bold statement, "I don't owe anyone for my success. I made it here on my own." My hands trembled as I read the words over and over again. On her own? Did she truly erase me from her story? The years of sacrifice, the nights I cried in secret while working double shifts, the meals I skipped so she could eat, erased with a single sentence. I felt as though I'd been erased too. Life without her was cruel. The house was too big, too empty. The bills piled up faster than I could pay them. I picked up extra shifts at the diner, scrubbing dishes and wiping tables until my hands ached. At night, I returned to the silence, a silence that mocked me with every breath. Yet even as I struggled, I refused to call her. My pride, my wounded, battered pride, would not allow me to beg my own child for help. Sometimes, I'd catch snippets of her new life through whispers in town. She bought a $10,000 chandelier. Did you hear? She rented a private jet just to go shopping in Paris. They say she's dating some rich entrepreneur now. Each story cut into me, not because of the extravagance, but because with every dollar she spent, she was building walls higher and higher between us. Then came the night that shattered me further. I was walking home from the diner, rain soaking through my thin jacket, when I passed a group of young people standing outside a nightclub. Laughter spilled into the street along with the thumping of music. And there she was, my daughter. Sophia stepped out of a sleek black car, wrapped in a sequined dress, her arm linked with a tall man who reeked of arrogance. She looked radiant, glowing, untouchable. For a moment, our eyes met. Just a brief flicker. A mother and daughter colliding in the chaos of the world. My heart leapt. I thought maybe, just maybe, she would run to me, embrace me, tell me she missed me. But instead, her expression hardened. She whispered something to the man beside her, and they both laughed. Then she turned away, disappearing into the club without a word. I stood there in the rain, my chest aching, realizing the truth I had been denying. She wasn't just swept away by money. She had chosen to forget me. That night, lying on my old couch, the storm outside rattling the windows, I whispered to myself, "She will learn. Life will teach her what I could not. And when that day comes..." I didn't finish the sentence, but deep inside I knew the betrayal would not be the end of our story. For arrogance has a price, and soon Sophia would have to pay it.